passe super, l'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! Vi i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone, welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. It's Chris O'Reilly here, joined by Alex Kulesh. And with the summer, the handball action continues, moving on to the underage categories. And we had a cracking World Junior Championships, the under-21s, over in Poland over the last couple of weeks. We also had some draws in the EHF Champions League at the end of last week. So a lot of people on our Patreon, on patreon.com/handball hour, looking for us to chat about that. So here we are. Alex, how are you?
I'm good. I was on holiday for a week, taking a full break after a long season. You know, you need to rest and recover. Got my good food, wine, and sun in Italy. But for you never rest. The wicked never rest.
Yes.
You were cheating on handball with a very similar sport.
I sure was cheating on handball with dodgeball at the European Dodgeball Championships, commentating on that back home in Ireland. And funny little handball related tidbit for you, Alex. I don't want to dwell too much on the dodgeball. It was a great time. Very beach handball vibes going there. And funnily enough, a lot of former handball players, or not like as you'd probably expect, a lot of handball players have switched over because they can throw the ball hard and move and catch.
Can imagine.
And one in particular really struck a note with me because I think the last time both of us were in that arena in the University of Limerick was 14 years ago, playing for Ireland against England. And a player who played on that England team on that day, called Aidan Woodall. After
that rings a
I
bell.
remember him, right back for England. Was just outside of the Olympic squad then in 2012. Basically committed his sporting adult life then to dodgeball. And there he was yesterday, winning the MVP in the men's foam category. So one of the two ball types that you play with, as England claimed gold. A real full circle moment. And a moment that gave me hope that maybe, Alex, I'll be able to make a grand comeback. Perhaps not in handball, but you never know after this
One
Achilles
more
rehab.
sport, okay, I like it. No, not as much jumping. And
no, a lot of jumping, but not an awful lot of jumping, in fact, but a lot less being beaten up by other people. Yeah, but enough on that. And on to the World Junior Championships, where probably the big story of the whole couple of weeks was darlings of the handball world, Faroe Islands, winning a bronze medal, led by Ollie Mittun, top scorer and MVP of the championship.
it's becoming a normal thing. I think this whole Faroe Islands thing is becoming fully normalized, where I look, at a tournament rankings and I'm like, of course, Faroe Islands are going to be one of the top junior teams in the world. That you've got your Denmarks, you've got your Spains. They've kind of been dominating Portugal, dominating these junior ranks, and along with them, of course, there's Faroe Islands. They're one of the rising nations, and then you really think about it, and it really comes home where, realistically, how many players under 21 in that age bracket does Faroe Islands have? Between the ages of about 18 and 21, playing handball male for a country with only 50,000 people there. You're talking like maybe a couple of hundred players that actually make up that whole kind of squad, or I suppose the pool for Faroe Islands. And to come there and dominate so much, and get a medal. Like they finally got a bronze medal. The last junior championship, that a pretty heartbreaking quarterfinal loss. This time, an even more heartbreaking extra time semi-final loss, but by the power of Ollie Mittun and his absolutely battered and bruised head by the end of it, they managed to claim a bronze, which is it's utterly remarkable.
Absolutely, and I want to I want to go back to what you said there about the battered and bruised because that was, I think, for all handball fans, unless you're Portuguese, and maybe even if you're Portuguese, the side that beat them in the semi-final, a really painful thing to see. Poor Ollie Mitton with looking like he's been through 12 rounds of a middleweight world championship boxing fight with like his just above his eye completely like opened up and picking up his MVP award. I think it was 12 goals he scored in that semi-final, just coming out of the losing end for Faroe Islands. But it, you mentioned there, it is a major breakthrough for them to get that bronze medal at last because there was the previous couple of youth and junior championships where Asha Pagotto was part of it. They were unable to make that breakthrough, but Ollie Mitton is able to lead this team to a bronze medal to beat Sweden in the bronze medal game as well, which is truly remarkable. 73 goals in the championship, top scorer and the MVP. And I was watching the bronze medal game against Sweden with Swedish commentary, and the way they were talking about him as well, and I think they were talking about the fact that Asha Pagotto is maybe struggling a little bit with Kiel, a team that relies so much on long range shooting and big players, and then talking about how Mitton and Asha Pagotto are so good in their reliance on creativity in the backcourt. And then co-commentator and former goalkeeping legend Klaus Helgren saying, well, not just creativity, but they're artists. And I've been seeing the comments on the internet about, are we seeing Ivano Balic 2.0 in Ollie Mitton? And my question to you, Alex, is Ollie Mitton better than a skipper?
That is a big question. And we'll have to see it, like we'll see what route is going to be better for these two absolute superstars. So Shipagotu went straight to Kiel. He had his season in Savehoff. He dominated, went straight to Kiel, and struggled for obvious reasons, kind of getting thrown into a club in real turmoil, like without real good direction, without a really formalized system, with injuries. Kiel have struggled a lot, to such extent that, sorry to sidetrack a little bit, but I read a story that Kiel were on the brink of bankruptcy for a moment. That's how much the struggle of the last couple of years of not getting into Champions League on a continual basis, not getting those extra games, not getting that prize money had an impact on them. While still, having that huge wage bill, they managed, it wasn't fully there, that bankrupt story, in terms of they quickly figured out, they got I think their rent on the arena was kind of moved a couple of years. They got a few injections of capital into the club, but that's what it took. That's how much the club has been struggling. And you get a young star like Skip Agotu landing in that situation, and it was tough. And like the physicality of the Bundesliga, I still have questions for him about his just stature and his strength and his physicality. He's an artist, but it's almost like that Luka Doncic kind of view of like, yeah, he's an incredible artist, but he just needs a little bit more physically, I think. So they're all the struggles for Skipper, while Ollie Mitten has decided to go to Geoge, which is just a beautiful place to play handball. Like just being surrounded by wonderful young Danes who all play the same way, which is probably the best way to play handball in the world. They have a direction in a good league, and we'll have to see. And it's not as physical. Like the Danish league is definitely physical, but not quite to the same level as the Bundesliga. You don't have the Christopans of the world in there, the Moresh, the really big players, and we'll see how that turns out. But at the moment, it's hard to tell because Ollie Mittun is incredible, but so is Skipagoti. Skipagoti was MVP of the tournament last year. He did the same thing and then had a bit of a struggle. So it's just hard to judge. I do hope, this Geo move, just like the move for the Norwegian player
Grundal.
Tobias Grundal as a stepping stone could work, as a diminutive center player. They've replaced like for like. They know how to play with that. I think Ollie Mittun even more talented than Grundal. So we'll see. He may be. He may be. I do think Ollie Mittun has that little bit extra ingenuity. He does stuff on the court that I've actually never seen. It's like that assist that always goes around. I think it was from the last, or it was from a Faroe Islands game where he does the fake switch. When you jump and pretending to shoot, but you kind of drop the ball. But he does that behind his back to a line player as he's finished. Incredible. So
he did some incredible things. The highlights as well, particularly from the Sweden game. Some of the assists, and that goal behind the back he scored as well. Like most assists, most goals in the whole tournament, and no doubt he was the best player in there. And I asked that a little bit cheekily, but I mean overall it's looking really good for this Faroe Islands team because now it's becoming like it feels like there's going to be more depth going into that team. You have the superstars of Aship Gotu, Mittun, and Vestav Taigam, who has really stepped up in recent months for Berlin and always has for the national team. But one of the things I noticed is like they're becoming big men, these under 21 players. It's not a diminutive side and look like they're at least matching the physicality of their opponents. Like Isaac Vedelsbol, brilliant player at both ends for them, and also young Lachok in goal, adding some strength and depth in the goalkeeper position for them. So it's looking really, really good. There's some other players that I think.
So just on that point, actually, so I have a little observation. You're saying that they're getting bigger, the players, but they're physically strong, I would say.
More sturdy. It feels like
sturdy.
Not because we know now not everyone needs to get big anymore, but sturdy, tough.
So the one observation that I had from this tournament is we seem to have lost the big man in handball. The lanky 2 meter tall shooter doesn't seem to be a relevant player anymore at this level. And it's been taken over by these smaller, tricky one-on-one players, the likes of Ollie Mittun. And if you look at the top 5 scorers of the championship, Ollie Mittun for Faroe Islands, top scorer, Axel Monsen, who was incredible, really, really impressive, but 1 meter 75.
From Sweden.
Aljuš Anzic, which we'll definitely get into, the Slovenian, again, fairly diminutive, under 1 meter 90. Lucas Sigrist for Switzerland, 1 meter 84. And then an Icelandic player, Erlingsson, also 180. We're talking, the top players are that smaller player. And when you look at those last 4 teams, the teams in the semifinals, they're all in the same shape. They're, maybe maximum 192, 1 meter 92. You're not going to get taller than that. They'll have a couple of small guys, but they're all in this 186 to 1 meter 90 range. They look so uniform, and it seems that's the way handball is kind of moving to, because you need to be able to play that one-on-one play. So you can't just plump a big lad in the middle. They need to move their feet. They need to chase these smaller guys. And I the the shot, the 9 meter shot, is just diminishing in handball. We've talked about the best team in the world all driving towards that one on one kind of small ball handball. Like when you look at Magdeburg, how many 9 meter shots, 10 meter shots that they take to win the Champions League? You can count on one hand, and it seems to be, that style seems to be just getting rid of some of these big shooters, and um, it's just interesting to see that in
It
this new
is.
generation that's where handball is going and starting to shape the way the player kind of the top players develop and which ones of them get to the top.
Yeah, and I guess inspired also by the Geetzels and the Icelandic players and the Costas of this world, who are exactly that kind of player. Farewell to the Finn Lemkes of this world, I would say. But well, one position where I think you can still be a big man and thrive is in goal, and that is clearly what we saw from Denmark, who won the gold medal match 29-26 against Portugal. And I just have to say, well, two Fredericks were stars there. Frederick Pedersen in the attack, scoring 9 goals for Denmark, but Frederick Muller, Frederick Muller Wolf, to say his full name. And there was a lot of a Kevin Muller and Andreas Wolf esque about him, because he was such an imposing man in goal, and some of the saves he pulled off in that second half for Denmark were incredible, and a great sign for them in the future as well to have someone like that coming through.
Yeah, yeah. Denmark were quite interesting because they didn't really have any top level stars. Like you see some of the other teams in those final rounds, they really have, and they're almost like kind of big names. There's a few big names around playing at top clubs. Denmark, not quite. It's a lot of it is that Gay team. A lot of it is kind of good players playing around Denmark. But that it's almost a testament to the school that Denmark is just driving over and over again. And they haven't been dominating the underage scene at all in the last couple of years. So it's a bit of a surprise that Denmark did get out there, take over and win. And it's obviously generations that come through, but it shouldn't be. These under 21 teams are very, very good, and like these players are the next generation. When looking at, just had a glance at the last World Championship now 2 years ago, under 21's World Championship that Germany won. I want me to read you out the squad.
I mean, I am at least half of them are now the starting team for the German senior team.
Yeah, the goalkeepers, David Spade, the starting goalkeeper over Andy Wolf, pretty much. The other goalkeeper in that is Lasse Ludwig, the Füchse Berlin player who got 12 saves in the Champions League final. Tim Freihofer, one of the top scorers in the Bundesliga on the left wing. You've got Niels Lichtlein playing there, star for Füchse Berlin. You got Justus Fischer, probably the best line player in the Bundesliga. You've got Renners Uschens, who we've seen do a lot. And on top of that, you have guys like Max Benecke. You got Matthias Langhoff there, all just some of the best players on the best teams on that championship team. So, a lot of these players are ready to go, ready to play, and we'll see this Danish contingent who, again, don't really know them that well, but they'll start filtering through into the bigger clubs.
Yeah, and I think that all of that kind of suggests that it really should be made a bit more of a bigger deal of this this under 21 championship. I think like the handball world could embrace it even more next time in 2 years' time, because it is turning into basically a preview for the years to come. And a little bit on that, I mean, we talked about Portugal getting to the final a few years ago, or in European and world underage championships. it was like amazing that they were breaking through. But now they've become one of the most consistent sides, which I think is fantastic for them and really should like shine a light on what is to come for them. And that was without, I'm pretty sure both Costa brothers, or at least Kiko, would have
Well,
qualified for that, both of them
for sorry for
would have been allowed, like would have been able to play
I think
if
definitely Kiko. I think
Kiko, maybe Martin is now too
I
old,
think
but
Martin.
Kiko would have
Yeah.
been allowed to play. Um, but they didn't even need him. But Diego Rema, who we've seen play for the senior team, was in the All-Star team in goal, also had some amazing performances. So, yeah, Portugal also creating a real, not just like a production line, but a consistently strong production line.
Yeah, it's again on these junior tournaments. It's Portugal. It's been Egypt that have been dominating. Who we see Egypt now one of the top teams in the world. Um, Germany, have filtered through their Faroe Islands. Are going to be like they're going to get there. They're going to
Be,
be
yeah.
there at the top eventually. Again, I do going back to Faroe. We won't have go to back to Faroe Islands every time, but I do fear that again that physicality and size at the highest level, at the full senior level, is always going to be tough for them. But they've got an artistry about them.
Yeah.
Any other kind of highlights for you?
Um, from the championship, no, I think that's about it.
I,
We can move on. Or do you have any other highlights from this
just
championship before we move on?
I suppose the last one I mentioned him very briefly, but the Slovenian playmaker,
Mm,
um, uh, the Slovenian playmaker Alius Anzic, 17 years old, and he looked like a serious player. Got 61 goals, 73% shooting. Really, really kind of took over early from day one. He looked like a talent, and this is again 17-year-old um, playing in Slovenia at the moment, but definitely one to look out for. And um, yeah, Daniel Stanchuic for Romania, who Romania seem to have
Stanchuk.
Stanchuk. Stanchuk. Romania seem to have a, a star coming through,
Nice.
which is exciting.
That is exciting. Nice to see a country like Romania as well do that on the men's side. So yeah, that'll do it for our little wrap up of the junior champs and of course the youth champs coming up later in the summer. But on to some draws we had, and Alex, the Champions League draws were made on Friday. Always intriguing to have a little bit of a preview for the season to come. And starting with the men's side, uh, it feels like once again there has been a killer group, a group of death drawn. Last season it was Group B. This season, I feel it's Group A. And once again, Kolstad are in there at the bottom.
Exactly. They keep getting shafted. It's so tough. Poor old Kolstad. You switch them with Pellister either last year or this year, and they're likely qualifying out of the group. But at the same time, I did say that initially. I had the same thought as you, but then looking at Group B, we have like a Pick Sega team who's taking it to the next level. With Gottfriedson and another year under Appelgren. We've got defending champions Magdeburg. You've got perennial champions Barcelona, PSG, still there. We've got Wisla Plotzk, who again, at a glance, you're like, oh, this is one of the weaker teams. But no, this is a Wisla Plotzk that's now really invested with the likes of Melvin Richardson coming in to Kosaratov coming back. This is a team that's at the very very highest level. So it may be a little bit deceiving when you look at this and you think, oh, Wisla Plotzk, there's a couple of teams here who are beatable, but actually they may be on the up. While on the other side of the group, you have Kielce in there who a bit more questionable.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way I kind of look at it. Like Group A, I think is a is a killer for the teams that are not the top five. I mean, I see trouble for Dynamo and Kolstad, and maybe throwing Kielce in there, so it could end up being a bit of a three-way race for them, because I think Aalborg, Berlin, Vesprem, Nantes, and Sporting are just like too solid now, too well routined in the Champions League, and they'll hold on to the top five. I think it'll be a great battle for the top there, and then in Group B, it's honestly maybe seven teams that if we're putting Barca, maybe just relegating them a tiny bit because of some of the moves they're making, but also not wanting to be
What
too
moves like
hard on
bringing
them.
back Fabregas?
I mean, is that already this summer? If so, then okay, maybe not. Maybe not relegating them down to like normal great teams. But besides Barca, and we know Magdeburg aren't always like consistently brilliant in the group phase. I think there's six teams there that can take points and share points among themselves. And then Pellicer, I think, will be in trouble. So in that sense, I agree with you that like it is there are two groups in different formats that will be very even among five or six teams. So in that sense, I think it's set up really nicely.
Are you bored that it's the same teams with just one Danish team changed?
It's a good question because I haven't thought about that.
It's just one team changed since
That
the season has finished, and that feels
kind of
a little
wild,
bit
huh?
disappointing.
Yeah. Well, it could be the last season of this format.
Oh,
So,
was that a
well,
hot
at least
scoop?
through the grapevine, it may or may not change at some point. What? Maybe next season. Hard to say. I
Ooh,
I have a feeling it's coming to a natural end. This format, and
I
I think people, including the clubs, are realizing that as well. Yeah, it is disappointing that it's the same. It's great that Georgi in there because of the aforementioned move for Ollie Mittun, but besides that, yeah, it's is a little disappointing. But I think it will provide some thrills and spills along the way.
as always,
As always.
uh, we're gonna go through the whole roundabout, but it is exciting because I think a lot of teams will be different coming into next season, and that should make things interesting. And we will do a full transfer podcast in a little bit. There's plenty of summer to get through. We can get into a few of the transfers, like pretty big ones, like Fabregas, who is joining next year, um, and even some of the rumors, like the skipper potentially joining Ollie in Geoge. So we'll see how that all fleshes out.
That's it. And there was one other draw or pair of draws that were made. We were specifically asked on Patreon to talk about, even briefly. So, Alex, we should do that. And it's that's what you pay for. There was the Euro 2028 promotion round qualifiers to try and get in with the big dogs. And I'm going to throw the three pairings at you, Alex. And I want your first impression who's going to go through for each. So, Bulgaria, Turkey.
Turkey should be taking that.
Cyprus, Estonia.
It's a tough one, but Cyprus have been on the down recently. I think Estonia likely to go through there.
And the one everyone wants to know. Great Britain versus Danish Kristapan's less Latvia.
It would be interesting.
This could be their best chance.
It's but would you say that Latvia are, compared to Estonia and Turkey? So obviously the three teams that went through are the lower ranked teams that went through the previous kind of round of qualification, but like the IHF Trophy and all of the emerging nations, and the first round of qualification were Bulgaria, Cyprus, and Great Britain, and they came up against the three worst teams from the last championship qualifiers, which are Turkey, Estonia, and Latvia. And Great Britain have been scraping at the highest level and they like Kosovo were a bit too much for them last time around. Latvia seem to be going down at a rapid pace, but at a glance, you think they're the best team. Um,
Yeah, but well, here's one. I mean, Latvia actually lost the promotion round last time
oh,
against they did. They lost against Luxembourg. And then because of the non-admittance of Russia and Belarus, the best loser of the promotion round was Latvia, and they got in through that backdoor route. So they have actually lost at this stage of the competition before, and they had a quite a disappointing, I think, qualification, like losing. And now we know that Italy are a serious team, but losing by 11 goals away to Italy kind of suggests that it's not looking great. But then they went and almost got a result against Serbia. So I don't think Great Britain are at that level yet, but we don't want to rely on kind of scoreboard journalism to make that point. You know, it's always a clash of styles in that regard, and yeah, I think they might have a little bit of a chance. But I do agree with you that Latvia should, under normal circumstances,
so
get through.
the one thing for Latvia is that they are a young team, so it's their best players are all kind of around 20 years old. They've just done a change of generation. Um, and
As Christopher told us on the podcast a while ago,
exactly.
which is why he didn't want to play with his former teammates' sons.
Yeah, so they've kind of got a bunch of 21-year-olds in there, and that could be a benefit for GB because they're a young team themselves. They've kind of been perpetually young for quite a long time. They're improving each time, but it just, when you're not professional, when you're amateur or semi-pro, most players kind of have to make a decision in their lives at around 25, 26. Do I keep going with this, or do I quit and get a real job and for GB?
Win a European dodgeball championship instead.
Exactly. So GB continued to be a young team. They were so impressive in the emerging nations. They're gonna have to let Francisco Costa play right back, not put him out on the wing, and then we'll see.
That's a good point on the very similar draw then for the World Championship qualifiers phase 1 pairings. Another quick overview. I mentioned what happened last time they met. Latvia versus Luxembourg.
I think the youth of Latvia beats this one.
Cyprus versus Turkey. Yeah, that's a battle.
Ooh,
There you go.
that's spicy.
Spicy indeed.
I'm not putting my name in the ring on that one.
Lastly, then another one we've seen recently. Great Britain up against their familiar foes in Kosovo, who we know are really close to getting a Euro spot.
I think Kosovo are quite good these days. They are, yeah, it'd be difficult to get over Kosovo.
There you go. You heard it here first. Alex Kulesh's predictions for your international window at the start of 2026. That'll do it, I think. Shall we wrap it up there, Alex?
We shall.
We shall. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back soon. I think maybe a little bit of a morning club later in the week as well to look forward to next week's Beach Handball Euro, Alex, which I am particularly looking forward to going to the deep heat of Alanya in Turkey. So we'll see what we can do to prepare you for that. Lovely indeed. But until then, everyone, take care and goodbye.